Today's video topic is going to be on BMI and diet cults. And for those of you who don't know, BMI is body mass index, and this is a system used to calculate your body fat pretty much everywhere. Now, the reason why this is really important is because it's being taught as fact in Canadian universities right now. Here's a Canadian psychology first year textbook. You can clearly see they present BMI as a fact. Now, I'm going to refute BMI mathematically because I think it's a very harmful thing to teach. Many people who are not overweight are going to think they're overweight, and I'm going to refute a lot of these diet cults. So we're going to be talking about veganism, keto, and all these things. Now, BMI is a very fascinating subject to me because it's presented as a fact by the science community despite being so unbelievably unscientific. So if you just critically think about BMI for 2 seconds, how does it work? Well, it takes into account your height and your weight, and it determines how fat you are based off your height and your weight. So this would mean that the only two variables to body fat are height and weight. That seems really stupid to anyone who can critically think. Doesn't your bone mass matter? Like some people have really thick bones and thin bones. You know the old "I'm big-boned" argument? Well, there's some truth to that. I mean, I'm pretty sure bone variance can make a pretty significant difference. What about your rib cage diameter, your frame size, right? Some people have shoulders that are this wide, some people have shoulders that are this wide. Well, it's not fat that makes them wider, it's just your bone structure, right? Your rib cage size. Some people's rib cages are massive. I have a massive rib cage. Some people have very small rib cages, right? And a really simple way to prove that is just compare a woman to a man. Women on average have much narrower shoulders and much smaller rib cages. And there's all sorts of other variables too, even something like hydration. So even though a lot of these things are kind of smaller variables, they still can add up to make a pretty significant difference and put you in the wrong weight range for sure. Now, the other big disclaimer, and this is the actual site the textbook gives you to use to calculate your BMI. Most people probably won't even read the disclaimer, but for those who actually do, it says BMI does not work for very athletic people and for the elderly because they have very high or very low muscle mass. So they're starting to take into account a third variable, muscle mass. And they're not even really taking it into account properly. They're not weighing your muscles in any way. And they're just saying it doesn't work for athletic and elderly people. So there's huge muscle variance between people who are not super athletic and not super elderly. If I just compare the average man and the average woman, the average man probably has twice the muscle mass of the average woman, right? So now I want to actually prove to you mathematically that BMI doesn't work. And we're only going to look at one single variable. I'm just going to look at rib cage size. Or actually, this is more trunk and torso size. Okay, so let's pull up the old screen here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is do some actual calculations. Let's do this, all right? So what I'm going to look at is the trunk, the human trunk. And I think it's closest to an elliptical prism if you're going to make any kind of shape. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically a cylinder, but the top of it's not a circle, it's an oval. So if you're looking at it from an overhead view, this is the overhead view of an elliptical prism. I think that's closest to what the human body's shape is. Like if you draw out your rib cages, like from an overhead view, they look like this, right? This is your spinal column, and then your ribs kind of loop around like that, right? So, and again, this is not going to be perfect math. These are just rough estimates, so it'll be sort of precise. Now, the anatomy of my trunk. Let's go through that. So the first measurement is a radius 1, and radius 1 on my trunk is 20 centimeters. Okay, so 20 centimeters. Let's put that in red so you can read it. And then we have radius 2. This is just how we calculate the area. Radius 2 is what do I got there? 7 centimeters. Okay, so 7 centimeters. And then there's the height of my trunk, so the top to the bottom, and that is, what do I got there? 43 centimeters. Okay, there we go. So in case you're kind of confused what a trunk is, like, this is where the head would go, these are the arms, and then you have your legs here. I have wheels. I'm a robot. I run on wheels. Okay, so just so you know what we're actually measuring. Now to calculate the area, we simply multiply radius 1. So we get 7 times 20 by radius 2. You multiply radius 1 by radius 2 multiplied by pi. We'll simplify that to 3.14. And then by my height, the height of my trunk, 43. And that'll give us a total volume of my trunk. And that turns out to be, according to this, 18,902 centimeters cubed. Okay. Now what is the weight of my trunk? Well, according to this link I found, this guy's citing a textbook, and it's on some shitty website, but it sounds about right. And he's citing a decent textbook. So let's say, according to this, it says 50% of your body weight is in your trunk. Does that sound believable? Yeah, I think my head, my arms, and my legs are about equal to my trunk. That sounds about right. So 50% sounds reasonable, and 50% of my weight is 87.5 pounds. I'm 175 pounds. Okay, so we have 87.5 pounds for 18,902 centimeters cubed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how a tiny bit of variance is going to affect this weight measurement dramatically. So all I'm going to do is increase the radius of my trunk by 1 centimeter. So you can see there's way more than 1 centimeter variance in humans. So imagine you take your rib cage, and all I'm doing is increasing the diameter by 1 centimeter. The radius by 1 centimeter, right? So it's a very small increase. You probably wouldn't even notice. Like if I'd increased my rib cage by 1 centimeter, I think 90% of people wouldn't even see the difference because it's a very small thing visually, but it's going to increase the volume very dramatically. Okay, so let's calculate that. Now let's put in 21, 21. We're increasing 20 to 21. By 7, we're going to increase that to 8. By pi, by 43, and that equals 22,683. What is the increase in mass? All right, so the way we would do that is we take the ratio here of volume to pounds, and then multiply it by this, and that's going to give us a 17.5 pound increase. So if someone's trunk is simply 1 centimeter bigger radius than another person, that is 17.5 pounds increase. That is a massive, massive, massive amount, and we're talking there's way more than 1 centimeter variance between people. Like, I mean, just go and measure it. Go measure your trunk size right now. I can almost guarantee you, don't make sure you're the same height as me, right? Because the BMI does take into account height, right? But look at these numbers only, the radius 1 and radius 2, and I guarantee you there's more than 1 centimeter of variance. And this is just one variable, okay? So rib cage size, just one thing. Trunk size, just one thing. We also have bone thickness. We also have muscle mass. We have all these different things. And BMI does not account for any of these things because it's pseudoscientific religion. Now, I think that's very interesting because this is taught in all Canadian universities right now, and I think when you just show your teacher this video, right? While they're teaching this unit, if you're in a Canadian university right now, show this teacher this video while they're teaching you about BMI, right? And see what they have to say. They'll probably agree with me. They'll probably say, you know what? He's probably right. You know, that makes some pretty good sense there. I think we need to reevaluate our thinking. Maybe they won't, right? There's also this authority hierarchy in universities where reason doesn't always prevail, and very often conventional and conformist ideas prevail. Anyways, I have a million videos on that. Let's not get into that. So next, I would like to talk about diet cults and why people are fat. So let's just talk about why people are fat or skinny to begin with, because there's so much irrational ideas on this. And the number one thing you're always going to hear today is metabolism. Fast metabolism, slow metabolism. There's always some kind of weird theory that doesn't make much sense. I'm going to say the number one variable that's going to determine whether you're fat or skinny is hunger. Okay? So your body uses whatever amount of energy to sustain itself a day, right? It's like a machine that needs a certain amount of energy and fuel to keep it going, right? So you burn a certain amount of thing. However, different people work differently. And I guarantee you, you know many people like this. So some people, let's say it takes 2,000 calories to maintain their weight. These people get full at around 1,500. And to simply just maintain their weight, they have to force feed themselves every day, right? And we all know guys like that. We go to the gym, there's these skinny guys who want to bulk up, and if they don't physically force feed themselves till it's like painful, they're losing weight, right? And on the other side, you have people who they need 2,000 calories a day to sustain their weight or whatever, and they don't get full until they hit 2,500 or 3,000. So people like that, if they're not in a state of perpetual hunger, then they're going to keep gaining weight. Okay, so just put my theory to the test. Don't believe me, test it, right? So for example, one of the characteristics of people who are full is they eat slowly, right? If you're hungry, you tend to stuff yourself. And if you're full, you tend to eat just slowly. And just try it yourself, right? Go eat some food right now, and you see as you're getting fuller and fuller, you're going to start to eat slower and slower, right? So you'll notice that people who eat slow generally are going to be skinnier because they're just less hungry people. And people who eat fast are generally going to be fatter because they're hungrier people, right? Now, I don't want to say that your fullness is entirely biological in the sense that you're just born with it and there's nothing you can do about it, because there is a lot you can do about it, okay? So when you go to McDonald's and you eat a bunch of crappy food, you don't get full until you eat like 4,000 calories. I can eat like a Big Mac and have like a milkshake, and then after that I'm still hungry. I'm like, it's just not very satisfying food, right? Now if I go to like Planet Organic and I get real food, I get like some vegetables in me, I get some lean meats, I get some fruits, I get some nuts, I get a real meal, right? Get some beans, etc. Then after a meal like that, you actually feel full, and you eat maybe a quarter of the calories to get full. So eating healthy is important. Eating healthy makes you full a lot faster. Okay, so let's look a bit at diets and why diets don't work and why they work temporarily. All right. So I agree with the science community in this regard, in that I think that a balanced diet is the best. Balanced diet makes you full faster, way faster, right? Avoid a lot of sugar, avoid a lot of fat, and eat a balanced diet. And avoid a lot of salt. That's the mainstream medical community opinion. I agree with it completely. I think it's very smart. I think it's going to work well, and I think people need to actually try that. Try it, right? Stick to that. I want you to eat nothing but peanuts, okay? Nothing but peanuts. Literally just get like a box of peanuts and just start eating them, okay? At first you're going to gain weight for a tiny bit because you're going to be increasing the amount of calories you eat dramatically, I think. But after a little while, you're going to get sick. Like, just try eating nothing but peanuts for 2 days. You're going to feel sick. And as a result of feeling sick, you're going to want to stop eating anything. It's like, if all I can eat is peanuts, I'm sick of this shit. I'm going to just starve, right? And so as a result of just being sick of the malnourishing diet, you just simply start starving yourself, right? And under eating, and then you lose a bunch of weight. And then all of a sudden you're going to start getting cravings for real food. You're going to say, I'm sick and tired of this peanut shit. I want some actual nutrition. And then you're going to eat a bunch of normal food and gain back all the weight that you lost, right? I think that's a very common pattern. If you've ever tried a diet, I think that's what's going to happen almost any time you try any diet, right? So then of course it's working for a little while. So people say, look at the positively thing. Just only look at the positive results and just try it again, right? Because you had positive results, you just got to stick to it harder, right? So that's the common trend, I think, among all diet cults, and I think it's very stupid. I think eating a balanced diet is good. And eat a balanced diet that's going to make you full properly, right? And I think if you do that and you remain a little bit hungry each night, almost everybody is going to lose weight. I'll talk a bit about like how weird some of these diets are, right? So like keto and the Atkins diet, that one I haven't talked much about. I have a lot of videos on veganism. I'm talking a bit about keto, right? And I think it's a really weird idea. Okay, so the first thing is keto is this concept of eating no carbs, and it's really popular today. Everyone says, "Oh, no carbs, no carbs," but the irony is they are all eating carbs. Okay, so when you eat protein, your liver converts the proteins into carbohydrates in a process called gluconeogenesis. So anytime you read a book about keto, let's see what they have to say about gluconeogenesis. And I guarantee you, they don't even know about it, right? See if it's even in the book. It's probably not. So that's the first thing that's silly. And if we just use a little bit of common sense, it just doesn't seem very plausible, okay? So let's go to McDonald's, or yeah, let's do Wendy's. Right now, let's go to Wendy's, and let's get a 10-stack Baconator, all right? Get the biggest Baconator you can get, and we're just going to throw away this little bun on top, right? Throw away the little bun on the top and the bottom, right? So we have like 10 layers of cheese, 10 layers of bacon dripping in fat, and like all this ultra fatty meat, right? And we're going to eat this 10-stack Baconator, right? Do you really think that if you throw away, this 100-calorie bun, is that 100-calorie bun that's making you fat, not the 10-stack Baconator that's, 15,000 calories, Oh, it's just too ridiculous. I mean, you're saying you eat like deep fried pork dripping in bacon grease, you're going to lose weight? I mean, just use a little common sense. I don't think that's going to happen. Veganism. I've made some videos on veganism before. I was vegan for a while, and I think the ethics arguments are better. Okay, so if you're doing veganism for ethics reasons, that's better. Okay, but if you're doing it as health reasons, I don't think that's a good reason to go vegan. Okay, and I'm not saying you can't be a healthy vegan, and there obviously are some, but most people I've talked to who've gone vegan, they end up quitting, and I ended up quitting too, because same thing. After a while, I just feel really sick and tired, and I said, I don't want to eat any more tofu, I don't want to eat any more beans, I don't want to eat any more of this vegan food. I'm sick of it. And you get the meat cravings, and you feel infinitely better as soon as you quit the diet, right? So, same thing with veganism, and I mean, there's all kinds of other fad diets out there. There's the ones the one, eat nothing but fruits and vegetables. Yeah, you'll lose weight doing that, right? Because you're starving yourself essentially, right? And try it for a couple weeks, and you're going to start getting cravings for real food. You're going to want to eat like a steak or eat like potatoes or something, right? You're going to get sick of eating blueberries all day. That's how every diet cult works. Okay, any book you read on diets is all the same thing: metabolism. Okay, so one of the key ways I think to avoid diet cults is make sure they talk about hunger a lot. Okay, because a lot of these people, if they're not even critically thinking, they don't even think hunger is actually a variable to how fat you get, right? So key tip number 1 to avoid diet cults: huge focus on metabolism, no focus at all on hunger. Doesn't even talk about hunger, right? Key point number 2 of a diet cult is always against a balanced diet, right? Always eliminate this food group and this food group and this food group, and only eat this. Eat nothing but Oreos, right? Eat nothing. You would lose weight if you had nothing but Oreos, right? Because you're going to get sick of eating them and starve yourself, right? So, anyways, that's my 2 cents on diets. I'm not a dietitian or anything. I'm a philosophy guy. I just think, and I like to think, and I think that if you think, you'll realize a lot of things. If you like this video, share it, subscribe, give it a thumbs up or whatever, and let me know if this has helped you in some sense. Alright, maybe I'll make some more practical videos like this. Most of my videos are more political, but I like to make some practical videos too that might help people as well. Okay, have a good day. but the top of it's not a circle, it's an oval. So if you're looking at it from an overhead view, this is the overhead view of an elliptical prism. I think that's closest to what the human body's shape is. Like if you draw out your rib cages, like from an overhead view, they look like this, right? This is your spinal column, and then your ribs kind of loop around like that, right? So, and again, this is not going to be perfect math. These are just rough estimates, so it'll be sort of precise. Now, the anatomy of my trunk. Let's go through that. So the first measurement is a radius 1, and radius 1 on my trunk is 20 centimeters. Okay, so 20 centimeters. Let's put that in red so you can read it. And then we have radius 2. This is just how we calculate the area. Radius 2 is, what do I got there? 7 centimeters. Okay, so 7 centimeters. And then there's the height of my trunk. So the top to the bottom. And that is, what do I got there? 43 centimeters. Okay. There we go. So in case you're kind of confused what a trunk is, like, this is where the head would go. These are the arms. And then you have your legs here. I have wheels. I'm a robot. I run on wheels. Okay, so just so you know what we're actually measuring. Now to calculate the area, we simply multiply radius 1. So we get 7 times 20 by radius 2. You multiply radius 1 by radius 2 multiplied by pi. We'll simplify that to 3.14. And then by my height, the height of my trunk, 43. And that'll give us a total volume of my trunk. And that turns out to be, according to this, 18,902 centimeters cubed. Okay. Now what is the weight of my trunk? Well, according to this link I found, this guy's citing a textbook, and it's on some shitty website, but it sounds about right. And he's citing a decent textbook. So let's say, according to this, it says 50% of your body weight is in your trunk. Does that sound believable? Yeah, I think my head, my arms, and my legs are about equal to my trunk. That sounds about right. So 50% sounds reasonable, and 50% of my weight is 87.5 pounds. I'm 175 pounds. Okay, so we have 87.5 pounds for 18,902 centimeters cubed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how a tiny bit of variance is going to affect this weight measurement dramatically. So all I'm going to do is increase the radius of my trunk by 1 centimeter. So you can see there's way more than 1 centimeter variance in humans. So imagine you take your rib cage, and all I'm doing is increasing the diameter by 1 centimeter. The radius by 1 centimeter, right? So it's a very small increase. You probably wouldn't even notice. Like if I increased my rib cage by 1 centimeter, I think 90% of people wouldn't even see the difference because it's a very small thing visually, but it's going to increase the volume very dramatically. Okay, so let's calculate that. Now let's put in 21, 21. We're increasing 20 to 21. By 7, we're going to increase that to 8. By pi, by 43, and that equals 20, geez, I wrote the number down here. Let me just calculate it, because I get 21 by 8 by 3.14 by 43, should be 22,000, yeah, that sounds right. Okay, 22,683.